friends, my name is Amber Thatcher, and here's today's slice. I got accepted into the Disney College program today, and I am so excited. Today, I'm going to be doing the second video of my 3-video series, and this video is all about the web-based interview. If you're like,
Amber, what are you talking about second video? I haven't seen your first video.
then go ahead and click on that link right there. It's in the corner, and it will take you to my first video of which you should watch before watching this one. So today, I'm going to be focusing on the web-based interview, also known as the WBI. That's what I'll be referring to it as this entire video. I'm going to, just like the last video, focus on the setup of the web-based interview before giving you tips for success for your WBI. So, a little bit about the WBI. This is basically a personality test that Disney is giving you to make sure that you are the best fit for the company, that you would fit in and be an amazing cast member. It can be very scary. Something that the WBI does is they will ask you a question and then rephrase it because they're looking for consistency in your answers. So in one section, they might have a statement.
I am always on time.
And then you need to say,
This is very like me, most likely.
blah, blah, blah. I'll get into that. But let's say you put
Very like me.
the highest you can go. Then later in another section, they have the statement,
I am almost never late.
and you think to yourself,
I don't want to tell them that I'm never going to be late because then what if I am late because of bad traffic and they fire me?
no. That's not what they're looking for. They're looking for you to say,
Correct. I am almost never late.
because they're looking for the consistency between those two questions that are different but are essentially asking you the same thing. Alright, a little bit about the setup. There are 4 sections for the WBI. The first section I think might have been the hardest for me. So in this section, you have to pick between the 4 best possible answers. So they'll ask you a question like,
The most rewarding part of my job is,
and then you'll have 4 different choices. It'll be,
Helping people. Getting things done. Getting a paycheck. Getting a raise.
so 4 different things, and you have to pick which one best suits you. Now this can be really important. So for me, the most rewarding thing of any job I do is helping other people. Well, that's gonna come back in a later section, and in a later section, possibly in section 2, it'll say,
The most rewarding part of my job is helping people.
and if you say,
Neutral or kind of like me instead of very like me.
that's almost a red flag because the computer can pick up that it's not very consistent. So that's kind of what the first section is like, and that one I feel like was the hardest and it felt like the longest. The next section, section number 2, they'll give you a statement and you'll say whether you
Strongly disagree, feel neutral, agree, or strongly agree.
An example of this might be,
When I start a task, I have to finish it before moving on to the next task.
and then you put whether you
Strongly agree with that statement, strongly disagree, feel neutral, agree, disagree. How do you feel?
That's section 2. The third section, they'll give you statements and you'll pick from,
Doesn't describe me at all, neutral, or describes me very well.
so this one's only 3 choices, and a statement that they might choose for this section could be,
I get angry easily.
and you would say,
This describes me very well, or neutral, or this doesn't describe me at all. I'm a very calm person.
that's section 3. The next section, which is the 4th section, kind of takes a path different than the first 3. The first 3 are all about your personality and seeing if you'll be a good worker, The last section is all about Disney, and it's all about your program. So in this one, you'll get 3 options, and you'll get
I am worried I won't like it. I am neither worried nor excited. And I am most excited about.
So some of the questions for this are
The idea of sharing a room with someone else, or being away from my family during the program.
those are 2 examples of statements they might have, and then you'll say
I am most excited about sharing a room with someone else. I am worried about being away from my family.
you'll say whichever you feel suits you in this case. Don't worry about putting I am most excited about for multiple. They're not going to say,
Oh, you can't be most excited about all of these things that we're asking you.
they're not going to say that. It's just for that question in general, and then the plate kind of refreshes for the next question that they give you. So that was really long-winded, but the WBI, for me, was one of the most stressful parts. So that is the not basic, but that is the overview of what the WBI is going to look like. I now have some tips for you. My first tip is find a quiet place to do this. Go somewhere where you're not going to be disturbed, because these questions are timed. I don't want you to worry about the time limit. I think got kicked off of a question once because I ran out of time, and there were a lot of questions. So don't worry about the time, but also don't sit there and contemplate for a very long time. The test is meant to kind of show your gut reaction, because if you take too long, then you're thinking about it too long. So find a quiet place, do it at a time where you will have enough time. I think I took anywhere between 30 minutes to an hour. Give yourself that time, and make sure you're not going to be disturbed wherever you are. I would also say it could help to have someone in the room with you or FaceTiming someone, just because sometimes you need someone else to say, yes, I agree with you, to make sure you're doing the right thing. I personally had my roommate in the room with me, and I was on the phone with 2 of my friends when they were doing their WBI so that I could help them. I would also say read everything out loud. If you just read the statement out loud, you will comprehend it better than reading it in your head. So that kind of goes back to the place where you're not going to be disturbed. Be in a place where you can feel comfortable actually saying everything out loud. And make sure to take a deep breath. Take a deep breath between every section. Give yourself a minute to breathe. You will have a break between each 4 sections, and it won't start until you hit continue. So you'll have that time to take a sip of water, to take a breath, but make sure you're breathing the whole time. And that kind of leads me into my next tip, which is relax and don't be too in your head. During the second section, I literally said out loud, I failed this test and I'm not gonna get in. I honestly felt like, based on my answers, I had failed the test, but I got in because I'm doing the program, so I obviously didn't fail. So it can really feel like you're gonna fail, but don't let that get to you. You have to brush it off and keep going, because if you let it eat away at you, you won't be your best self throughout the entire questionnaire. My next tip would be don't put neutral. I would say it is best to put the strongest answer, so strongly agree or strongly disagree for section 2. You can put the ones below it, but I would try not to put neutral very often. I did put neutral for, I don't know, maybe 10 questions, and I still passed, so it doesn't make a big deal. You can put neutral for the ones that you really cannot answer, but try to use it sparingly. Don't use it too often. Disney's really looking for someone who has an opinion, a solid opinion. So if you can show them that you're strong on either side of the spectrum, then that will show them that you're not afraid to speak what your opinion is. The last tip I will give you is don't don't lie. It will catch up to you in future questions, because if you get caught in that lie and you say something different and you have very mismatched answers, then the computer will catch on. There is also that line between lying and picking part of you. So for me, I am someone who really likes my alone time, but I also really like being around people. And it really just depends on the day I've been having, how I'm feeling, the situation I'm in. But during this WBI, I needed to pick one of those sides because I didn't want to seem like my answers were mismatched, and I said,
Strongly agree. I like having time to myself more than I like being around people.
and then also say,
Strongly agree. I like being around people more than I like being by myself.
so I picked one. Since they are both part of who I am, I decided it would be better for Disney if I talked about how much I like being around people, because I do. I love being around people, and when I'm working, I like having a lot of guest interaction. So I picked that side of me, and I stayed consistent with that the whole time. Those are all the tips I have. This video is hopefully not going to be too long. I feel like it might be pretty long, but stay tuned for next week, which is all about the phone interview. I hope these tips are helping. Please comment down below if you have any questions, any comments. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, all of the above, you know the drill. And with that being said, I will catch you next time. Good enough.